It happens every year, and every year when it happens, it's not a good look when teachers are uh, throwing hands, exchanging blows with students. That's not a good look. So, we have an incident of that nature out of Atlanta, and this video has gone viral, and I'm going to share a little bit of it with you because I want you to see it, and perhaps we can learn something from it. I haven't seen it in its entirety, so we are going to watch it together. So let's do it. Okay. Jeez Louise. That's tough to see there. And as you can see, the video is blurred because we've got minors in this video. So it looks like we have a teacher who was punched in the face. Yeah. Here we have a teacher here. Um, and then you have this student is coming to punch him in the face. I mean, we can clearly see that. Now, the video picks up here. The video picks up here. So the fact that the video picks up here leads me to believe that there was something that preceded it. Obviously, it doesn't take a detective to figure that out. There's something that preceded this here. Generally, when students are getting out their cameras, they know that something is about to happen. Things are going to escalate here. And so the person that started to record this, they knew that what they were watching was eventually going to go from a 1 to a 5 to a possibly 10, and that's when they started to record. And unfortunately, it looks like I wonder if this guy's security, he just didn't get there fast enough, and that's too bad. I because I this looks like it's during passing time. He's probably doing his rounds during passing time. So the student made this decision, this terrible decision, and assaulted this teacher. And here you see the teacher's response. So the teacher's not happy, and who would be? Who would be? So saw the teacher there try to even the score as the student was being restrained.
All right, a lot of you may remember this fight. It happened last week at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. High School in DeKalb County. The district says several students initiated the fight with the teacher you see there. There have been a lot of questions since that video went viral. And tonight we're hearing from the DeKalb County School Superintendent. 11 Alive's Dan Kennedy spoke with him about what's being done in response.
The DeKalb County School Superintendent this morning outlined the district's approach to school safety and student discipline. He says they are working on de-escalation training with teachers district-wide. And as for the students involved, he says there was an opportunity perhaps before that fight began to identify some trigger points. So he acknowledged the fight and says there are things they could do better as a district.
So when these things happen, there has to be an investigation. An investigation has to take place. Even though the community has the video, they see what happened, and I can guarantee you that there's more heat on the teacher. There's more heat on the teacher, even though the teacher was assaulted. Now, again, you know me. I love teachers. I'm for teachers. I'm pro teacher. And I felt that way even when I worked as an administrator. But you have to remember that more is expected of us. We are expected to be, in some cases, we're expected to be superheroes, to have superhuman strength, to have the ability to let students tell us things and say things to us and continue to be like a robot and try your very best to de-escalate the situation. And that's why you heard the administrator say that in his statement about de-escalation. And so now what you have, I believe, because of the teacher's response, yes, the community is wondering, oh my gosh, that teacher's out of control. Is my student safe? You're supposed to be a teacher. We expect more from you. So there, now you have that narrative in the community. And definitely when that video kicked off, like me seeing that teacher be assaulted like that, that's terrible. And you saw a group of students standing around, so it looked like they were waiting for something to happen. There's video before the video that you see right there, and I just feel so bad because it looked like that was a teacher who needed some assistance immediately. And that, unfortunately, that assistance didn't get there in time. So let's continue.
It all stems from this fight that happened last Tuesday here at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. High School in Stonecrest. The teacher was put on administrative leave while they investigated, and 3 students were charged with battery and disrupting public school. Well, today, Superintendent Dr. Devin Horton said he does not support those students being criminalized. He says things are not as cut and dry as what you're seeing in that video right now.
So there you see it. And again, I'm pro teacher, but I mean, it's frustrating that you have to think like that sometimes. But like, guys, we just can't. Ugh. As hard as it is, now definitely you have to protect yourself. But I think also I think that the response of the teacher is going to factor into some of the consequences for the students, and I feel bad for this teacher, and I feel bad for the rest of the teachers in that building, because what do we want as teachers? We want to be supported. Now, again, I wasn't there. I don't know all of the other details. I don't know what was being said back and forth prior to this incident. But what I'm looking at here is I see a teacher, words of words. And so, but I see a teacher being hit in the face. And, I think, it's hard to blame him. I see his teacher losing it and wanting to settle the score. And it just, this looks bad. It looks bad.
And there are things they could have done better as a system, including pairing at-risk students with family and community engagement advocates, or FACE.
That incident occurred, that student had been with us less than a month. We didn't have an opportunity to put that student with a FACE advocate. We had just got the student. And so
I don't know if that's going to sit well with the teacher. That doesn't sit well with me, because like, well, yeah, what difference does that make that you had the student for less than a month? And again, I don't know what the words were back and forth. Words are words, but words have power to fill one with emotion. And especially when you have teenagers, they don't have they just don't have the maturity to just like, I'm cool, man. I'm gonna walk away from this. So I don't know all of the facts, but like I said, you heard it here. I really do think that they're looking for ways to lessen the consequences for the student, and that's pretty shocking to me.
So it's time that times like this that we got to reflect and say, does that moment define our culture in our district? Does it define the culture in our schools? It does not.
And speaking of the culture, this, of course, is a small incident in an otherwise very large school. The principal also spoke today and touted some stats that they're proud of. He says attendance rates here at an all-time high, 85% or so, and says they are on target to have their highest graduation rate in the school's 24-year history. He says they are not where they want to be as a school in light of what happened last week with that fight, but he says they are on the right track. Reporting in Stonecrest, Dan Kennedy, 11 Alive News.
So there you have, a lot of teachers are doing a lot of hard work, and they're starting to turn things around in this very young school. And I get it. It's very they're not pleased with the fact that they've made the news in such a way, but here they are. But definitely, I agree with you don't want this to overshadow all of the positive things that they've done. But for us as teachers, there's so many things that are missing from this, and it's hard to find out the lesson that we can learn from this, because I don't know what I would do if a student were to punch me in the face without me physically, because it didn't look like this teacher put his hands on them. Perhaps he said some things that he probably shouldn't have said that were probably unprofessional. Perhaps. I don't know. But I don't know what I would do if a student punched me in the face. I would be very upset. And I think that for most people, the natural reaction is to, okay, the fight's on. But in this case, like, I don't know if you would really call this a fight. I mean, the students restrained. Okay, so the teacher got one in, and that's just, while the students being held, we can't do that. We can't do that. We cannot do that. So, as they said, the teacher is on leave. They've got to do the investigation. We cannot have that. And it's so sad, because, like I said, this teacher needed some assistance, and obviously I get it. Like, when someone puts their hands on you like that, a lot of people, they want to even the score. I totally understand that. But we're gonna. Oh, and here's the other thing. We'll never know. Like, this is in the news, but we're not gonna know unless the students or their families talk about the consequences that they're going to get. But just based off the way that administrator was talking, I don't think the teachers are going to be happy with those consequences, because it did seem like. It seemed like the administrator was making excuses for the student. And that's sad. So, all right, we'll continue to follow that story. Thank you for your time. See you in the next video.